Anybody who probably doesn't actually know me. Now, good afternoon. So quick show of hands, how many of you work in a SOC? How many of you SOC workers? There you go. Did anybody else see this movie title and just kind of feel it in your soul just a little bit? Because that's every day at work some days. It is everything, everywhere, all at once. And it turns out this movie has nothing to do with cybersecurity, but I'm pretty sure the ideal reality is the one where everybody is just rocks, because if you're a rock, you can't click on a link in a phishing email. It's a little hard. So we have our standard disclaimer, my words are my own and not my employer's. So I want you to imagine me, a little bit younger, red hair instead of purple hair, and I've taken a security engineering position at a large company, and this is my first really big chance to shine. I am like the security engineer, and I'm facing my first real test. My boss sat me in front of the IDS and said, make it work. Like, how hard can this be, right? And I log in, and what I have facing me is a solid wall of alerts, like line after line after line after line. And they're using words that I have seen before, never quite so many of them all at the same time. And I'm kind of internally freaking out because, like, have we been breached? Did we not realize it? What do I do? Where do I start? Do I just update my resume and pretend that none of this ever happened? But have you ever heard the question, how do you eat an elephant? And the answer is one bite at a time. So deciding where to take that first bite can be overwhelming, but I did it. I investigated all of the alerts, I tuned the IDS, and I got it under control. And then I went to a new company, and I logged in, and I saw a giant wall of alerts. But I had a little bit better of an idea of where to start. But it wasn't until after I had those 2 rounds of tuning that I went through an actual incident response boot camp at the MITRE Cyber Range, and we spent a week using a checklist to work HBSS alerts by the checklist every single time. And it was tedious, but it gave me a framework for gathering information methodically and making decisions. And I liked it. So I basically have taken that checklist everywhere that I've worked since then. But the checklist is just one part of the picture. So we're going to discuss some basic triage guidance first, and then we'll walk through the checklist, talk about how to use that information to make informed decisions, and after the dust is cleared, how to follow through. So before you panic and try to write everything down, the checklist is on the website with the other materials. Caveats: this is not a one-size-fits-all process. Your company is not my company. I have tried to make this as tool agnostic as I can, but if you use this, you may want to list specific data sources you want people to look into. So it's easy to forget things when everything is happening all at once, so list those things out. And if you're listening to this talk and you're thinking, I don't even know where I would get that information from, it's time to talk to somebody about that. You need a SIM, you need the right log sources in it, you need email security, you need EDR. If you don't have those things, it will be a million times harder to investigate. And this isn't foolproof, right? If you're like looking at this and going, this sucks, cool, make it better, make it yours. Now also, many of you may be expected to work alerts very quickly, right? This is not practical to use on every single alert, okay? It takes time to do this level of analysis, but it's a good training tool, especially if you're training new people. Our new people love this. And during an incident is a great way to make sure you've got all of your bases covered. So we have our initial triage. You log in and you have the wall of alerts. What do you do? Now what I usually do is I look at them and I go, have I seen this before? And if you're new to this or it's a new system, this is not a fun question because the answer is usually no. But if the answer is no, that means it's time to start building an internal knowledge base. So document your common alerts, or even better, your uncommon ones, and make it easy to determine if an alert is benign or a false positive, or at least provide enough context to save yourself some time the next time it happens. Do future you and your coworkers a favor and start writing this stuff down. So let's say you personally haven't seen it and you look it up, and congratulations. It's a known false positive or benign activity, and you can close the alert and be done with it. That's totally fine. You don't have to follow the whole checklist. If you look it up and it's known bad activity, congratulations, you're gonna have a bad day. So it's time to start filling out the checklist and documenting the incident. But you'll have the wall of alerts, and maybe it's a new system, or maybe you have a pretty well-tuned system and you log in one day and you're getting hammered. Yeah, this happens, and you're freaking out. But you're not gonna freak out because you're going to remember Megan's law of alert triage. Basically, the value of an alert is inversely proportional to the volume of alerts that you're getting. Quantity does not equal quality. So unless you are in a 100% malware-riddled environment, the noisiest alerts are generally the most worthless. They are the ones most in need of tuning or disabling entirely. Even if it's a higher severity alert, odds are it's probably something either normal or a false positive. Why? Because usually the goal of an attacker is to get in, sneak around, move laterally, get your data, and get out. And anything they do that can attract attention could cause them to be found. So for the most part, unless you've got that serious malware infestation, if you see a whole bunch of critical alerts, it's probably actually okay and you can calm down. So I do have I have a corollary to this. I call it the million monkeys backup problem. So if you've ever heard that a million monkeys on a million typewriters will eventually produce the entire works of Shakespeare, in the same way, your encrypted backups being transferred across your network will be responsible for about 99% of your critical severity false positives. Ask me how I know. So that being said, if I see the same signature firing thousands of times, even hundreds of times, dozens of times, I'm going to investigate it and I'm going to get it tuned. It's a distraction. There's a good chance if you are working bogus alerts, you're going to miss something important, okay? If you have high priority alerts, go work those first, but make sure you come back and do the tuning. Even if it's not high volume, an increase in hits on one signature is worth investigating. Like I call it my spidey sense. Something will kind of pop up and you kind of get like that little feeling. You guys know what I'm talking about. You just get that bad feeling. So this happened to me one time. We had a sudden surge in people visiting a suspicious website hosting domain, glitch.me. And it turns out that all of them were getting a phishing email from one of our vendors, and they weren't reporting it, they were clicking on the link. And that was my first indication that we had a problem because nobody had reported the email to us yet. So if something bubbles up to the top there, it's worth taking a look at. I also look at the severity, right? This is obvious. And I apologize if you're visually challenged, but those alerts that are red, they are red for a reason. Red is bad. A critical or high alert should never be ignored. Evaluate it as a high priority. Make sure they are good quality alerts, right? So tune them, but it's worth it to drop things and go investigate the high severity ones. So as far as scary, when I say scary, I'm talking about things like Kerberos or Mimikatz or Metasploit, right? Those are scary. They're probably not a false positive. It's time to start collecting information immediately. Funny story. So we got an alert for Mimikatz running on the workstation of one of our senior sysadmins, right? Not happy, not a good day. And so it turned out that he wanted to test Credential Guard on his workstation, and so he ran Mimikatz against it. And we had a nice little conversation about how we don't give Megan a heart attack. And he works on my team now. He's a great guy. So it was a win-win situation, but like I said, if you see those words, it's time to look at it. Another good reason to investigate is multiple log sources telling you that something is wrong with the same system. Or you have one system triggering multiple types of alerts. These things I have found when something is wrong, it's usually really wrong. Like you usually have more than one thing telling you there's a problem with this guy, so go check it out. So all these things factor into my decision to work on an alert or move on to the next, right? I'm gonna skim that list of alerts. I'm gonna look for the red stuff. I'm gonna look for the scary words. I'm gonna check if anything is unexpectedly noisy. I'm gonna look for the tuning opportunities because I don't like closing useless alerts, and I'm gonna take my first bite. So if we've chosen an alert, we're gonna start with a checklist. We're gonna put on our reporter hats, if you remember this from school, And you're going to answer who, what, when, and where. And hopefully you will find why and how. So who, this is the main subject of your alert. So this could be source and destination IPs, host names, usernames, processes, hashes, file names, whatever it is that triggered the alert. And again, if you have the same who triggering multiple alerts, group them into one incident. They're probably related. And if you have the multiple who's all doing the same thing, like all the users visiting the phishing website, group that together into one incident too. We have what? This is our signature info and the severity. And maybe a little investigative work into the signature itself. When was it created? What's the confidence level? Low confidence signatures can kind of be deprioritized sometimes. And we have when. So when is the time the actual alert fired, when you started working on it, your name, who your escalation point is, and when you escalated it to them. This sounds like overkill, but if you have a real incident, it's easier to have this timeline documented now than to try to make guesses later. And where? So that's our alert source console or consoles. So we're going to take that basic info that we collected and we're going to try to determine if this alert needs to be investigated or if we can deprioritize it or close it out. So, is this a new false positive or a change to your environment? This is where that documentation is handy because it could be a new system triggering alerts you've previously tuned for other systems. This happens in our environment. We get new domain controllers set up, they all trigger the same alerts. I look it up, hey, is this a new DC? Yep, all right, cool, add it to the tuning and I'm done with it. There's also false positives, right? So look at the signature. Does it make sense with the traffic that was detected? Did your backup traffic trigger something new? Good chance that it did. You'll also look to see if it's a brand new signature. So a new signature might just need tuning, or it could be a false positive, a bad detection. This happens a lot. Or it could be detecting an emerging or zero-day threat. It could be your first indicator that you have in fact been owned. So how do you tell the difference? You're going to go and search your open source intelligence for the alert. And that means you're going to go search the internet. I like Twitter, I like Reddit. They're really helpful. So if you have something like a CVE or an intrusion set or a hacking group or a malware family, whatever it is in the alert that you can search for, go hunt it down. Search the internet for context. You could find people on Reddit complaining about a new false positive. You could find people on InfoSec Twitter telling you some really bad news. But I've seen bad signatures from every vendor. Like this was literally like yesterday, my coworkers back at home were like, oh my God, why? It's like, sorry buddy, I'm at the conference. You get to deal with that. But sometimes searching the internet is faster than putting in a support case. So if you've taken this initial pass and you're pretty sure that what you're dealing with is benign or false positive, or at least you can de-escalate it, you can always put it to the side, right? If you have more severe alerts to look at, go look at those. If you've decided this isn't that big of a deal, you can always get back to it later. But some alerts are going to fall in the middle where we've answered those questions and we don't actually have a clear answer yet. So what information can we collect next? So first we're going to figure out what general category the alert falls into. Most alerts are going to fall into one of three categories, and these are mine. You may do this differently, but this is how I group them. So if it's coming from my network IDS or my firewall, and the alert itself doesn't identify a suspicious process as part of the alert, I'm going to start with suspicious communication. If the alert is coming from my endpoint protection and it doesn't like a particular file or behavior from an executable, I'm starting with potential malware. And if it's an alert from my email security solution that a user clicked on a bad link, or the user hit a domain used for adversary in the middle of phishing, or my identity protection is saying that they have a suspicious login attempt, I use the potential phishing category. Why? Because like pretty much every actually malicious, suspicious login event has been because somebody got phished. So I just throw them all into the same bucket. We also use this process to investigate all reported phishing emails. And as you investigate, you may use more than one set of questions. So you can start with suspicious communication and realize it's coming from a funny executable that you don't remember seeing before, and it turns out that a user got phished and downloaded it. So you can always pivot from one checklist to another. So starting with suspicious communication, we're going to document the full information for the systems involved. So if you started with an IP, now is the time to get host names, domains, even better, who is using the system at that time. Now, if you can't find the host name, is the system a rogue, right? If there's a rogue on your network, that's bad news. It could be an adversary, it could be a vendor plugging something in without permission, it could be someone bringing an infected machine to work and plugging it in. I've seen all of these things happen. So document when and where it showed up on your network, track it down, and get it taken offline. If you're having trouble getting people to help you, tell them finders keepers. It's very motivating. You'll also determine the actual scope of the activity. So what does that mean? Is it one source to many destinations, many to one, or one to one? So you may have already grouped multiple alerts into one incident, but you also want to check your logs for additional systems. As a side note, if you've got like a couple hundred systems involved in a particular activity, don't write them all down. You don't know if it's actual malware or anything yet. You don't know that they're infected. Don't waste time documenting something you don't need documented right now. So if you're ever like writing this down, your boss is like, why are you doing that? You say, Megan said, I did not say that, okay? You'll also check to see if the communication is internal to remote, internal to internal, or remote to internal. This is helpful for triage because if the alert involves potential command and control traffic, but the source and destination are both internal, that's not very good command and control. It's probably your backup servers again. If one of the IPs is remote, what sort of reputation does that IP or domain have? Do you have any web content filtering traffic to it? Do you have any other information that you can gather from your EDR about that IP address? Figure out how the user got there. You'll also document the ports and services involved. The alert may be for one particular service, but is there additional traffic between those two systems? Are there any anomalies in there, like HTTP traffic over DNS ports, anything spicy like that? And you'll check to see if the communication was successful. So it may have been blocked by your firewall or some other protection, and your IDS or whatever, it doesn't know that. So always check and see if it was actually successful, because it's bad when the user clicks a phishing link, it's worse when it actually succeeds. You'll also collect and review your packet captures. I hope you have packet captures. I love packet captures. They solve so many arguments, okay? You may be able to determine if this is benign or false positive just from this step. You need to understand what the signature is looking for and what is being detected, what is triggering the signature. And this a lot of times can let you mark it down as a false positive right there. You'll also document when the activity started. So not just the time of the alert, how long has it been going on? Because if the traffic has been going on for months or years, and suddenly it triggered an alert, and it's a new signature, and it's not a critical one detecting an emerging threat that everybody just found out about, again, it's probably benign. You'll also look to see if this is expected or unusual activity for these systems or on your network in general. So this is where knowing your environment and the common services in use is very helpful. You may need to ask around with your server admins. Like if you don't know what SCCM is and you start seeing alerts for it, you're gonna have to talk to somebody and figure that out. You'll also try to track down the source process for the activity, and that's where your EDR comes in again. See if you can find that IP, find the source process, and document it. You might be able to figure out that it's benign from this step, but if you're not sure, you can take that information, you can pivot over to the potential malware checklist. So there's a few outcomes at this point. You could have said, all right, I have clear evidence that this is benign or false positive, I can close this out. Or, yep, I've tracked it down to a process, I need to go investigate that. Or you could be out of options and you could be out of logs. And sometimes you just have to close those alerts. You can't work on them for 3 days. Your manager's gonna get mad if you spend more than 5 minutes on it, usually. But it's okay to say, you know what, I don't have any clear indicators that this is malicious. I've done my due diligence here, and I'm just gonna have to close it and put a note in that documentation that says, if this thing does anything funny again, we need to look into this a little bit closer. So potential malware. We're going to collect, is this a behavioral alert, like Word.exe launching a child process, or is the file tripping a conventional AV signature? If it's a behavioral alert that involves suspicious communication, you'll want to investigate those IPs. Where was the file found? How was the file found? And what action did your endpoint protection take? All of this is going to give you some important clues about the scope of this incident. So, for example, if it's in the user's download folder, your real-time detection caught it, and it deleted the file. You don't have any evidence that they ran it. What happened? They tried to do something dumb, and your AV actually worked for once, and it stopped them from doing it. This is good, right? The scope has been limited. We just need to figure out why they tried to do that. But if it's in the user's download folder, and it was caught during a scheduled scan, now you gotta hunt it down. Where'd they get it from? We don't know. Or worse, it's found in their installed programs folder and during a scheduled scan, or it's in a system folder of some sort. Yeah, those are big red flags. Something bad happened, it happened a while ago, and now you're gonna have a really long day of trying to figure out what happened here. Another fun one that I've run into is the file is found in the email program's cache. Yeah, that's fun because I'm like, great, now I have a potential phishing incident on my hands, and this is my first indicator of it. So those are really fun to hunt down. I don't particularly like that. But back to the checklist, you'll also look to see what account the suspicious process is running under, and is it the expected user account for the system? So process is running under unexpected accounts or privileged accounts. Like, we have a server team and a desktop team. I do not expect to see server team accounts running on workstations. That would be a red flag for my environment. So know who belongs where, and if you see something funny, it's time to check into it. You'll also document the parent process. What story can you tell here? Is this normal for your environment? Is this something that you need to talk to somebody about? Because sometimes it's easier to just call somebody and say, hey, can you explain this to me, than to spend a bunch of time researching it yourself. You'll also check to see things like, are these files signed? Are these executables signed? Unsigned files are bad, right? Work your way back through that execution chain. And try to get a copy for analysis. You will want to download or extract a copy of this as quickly as you can, because depending on the system that you use, it can take time to send that request to the system to download it and for you to get it into your threat emulation. I highly recommend you use threat emulation. But I will say, by the way, if your EDR is alerting on the file and you have that EDR software installed on your system and you try to download that file to your system, what's going to happen? We're going to laugh at you. Everybody's going to make fun of you, and you're going to go on my SOC wall of shame, okay? Yeah, don't do that. Don't make that mistake. So by this point, we may have been able to write this off as benign or a false positive of some sort. And if we think it's bad, we may want to do a little bit more analysis. So another thing I usually check is more than one vendor reporting this file as malicious? Because if it's just one vendor doing it, it's starting to look more like a false positive, okay? They all make mistakes. If everybody is flagging it, you have a problem on your hands, right? But if it's just one, I kind of take that with a grain of salt. But not all malicious software is created equal. What is the actual purpose of it? Is this spyware or adware? Is it used for initial access? Is it used for command and control? Is it used for lateral movement? This is where file emulation can help you figure out just what is going on with that particular file. But on the other side, threat emulation reports can be really hard to interpret. Some stuff is really clearly bad. I mean, it's like, oh, this is not okay. This did all the bad things. And sometimes you're just picking through indicators and you don't have a clear answer, because sometimes the only difference between malware and regular software is the author's intent or the user's intent. Because I have seen totally legitimate software do all sorts of things that made the threat emulation freak out. Because from an indicator perspective, it looks bad, but that was how the software was designed to run by somebody who was not me. And I'm talking to the system owner and they're like, yeah, this is what it does. And you're like, okay, I will just add that to the allow list and we'll move on with our lives. It happens. You'll also check to see if there's any CVEs listed in the signature or mentioned in the threat emulation report. This is helpful for later if this was the attack vector. So let's say the alert is for actual malware, which means that someone's going to have a bad day, and that someone is probably you. So depending on what you found, you may be well into your IR processes, and this is not in the scope of this talk. But what else can we document? So was the malicious activity successful or not? How successful was it? Where are you in the attack chain? You're going to check your logs and you're going to put that whole story together. You're going to document all of your IOCs, your files, your hashes, your IPs, your domains, so you can search your logs for any additional systems that may be infected or otherwise impacted. You want to see that full scope of the infection, and this is where you're going to write all the systems down and see if you're going to have a bad day or a really, really bad day. You'll also look for lateral movement to other systems. Was the user's account used on any other resources? You'll document all of that. Was that system scanning other systems? Was that system doing anything funny to them? Write that down. And you've collected a lot of indicators, and now may be the time to start taking action. And if you do, you'll document who did what, when. Anytime you're taking a response action on your network or against a system, you will document who did what, when. So are there patches available? Who is responsible for getting those out? When did they complete it? Are you blocking any IOCs? Who is implementing the blocking? When did they do it? Are there any response actions being taken on infected systems? Are they being taken offline? Are they being reimaged? Who is doing that? When did they do it? You want to document that full chain of everything that happened. So your checklist may have additional actions in here. This is just kind of a starting place. And last up, we have phishing, everybody's favorite. So you're going to document your starting point. That could be the reported phishing email. It could be moving backwards from an actual incident. It could be pivoting from another checklist. As an aside, if you are dealing with suspicious login activity, it is usually pretty easy to determine if the attempt is malicious or not. Like, you can take a look at the source IP, what they're accessing, user agent string. It's that, like, this spidey sense thing. You can kind of get like a feel for when they're bad. And I usually drop everything and work these because if they're benign, they're pretty easy to close out. And if they're bad, you want to be on it ASAP. So check with your user, check with their manager. There's a good chance they're traveling. It's possible they're not. And if it looks bad, you're going to reset their password or you're going to regret it. Reset or regret. Document who did it and when. I have never gotten in trouble for resetting someone's password, okay? They may have been mad. I did not get in trouble, okay? Like, case in point, we had a high-risk login from a member of our executive team from Estonia. I was on that button. I had his password reset so fast. And I called his admin and I was like, hey, we had some activity from so-and-so. She's like, yeah, he's on vacation. He's in Estonia. People go on vacation in Estonia. I thought it was just like where hackers hung out or something. Like, I didn't even realize that was an option. And he wasn't mad because he understood why I did it. And it was in the interest of safety in our company, and he was a very high-profile person. So, reset it or regret it. If you do have to investigate backwards and you can't reach the user, this is not fun because you could be looking at every email that person got for the last week or month, because I've seen people dig things out of their junk mail folder and click on the links in them. It's wonderful. They will do all sorts of great stuff. And even better, there's the logs that you don't have. So somebody will get a phishing email to their Yahoo account. It's always Yahoo. And they'll be on their home system, and they'll click on that link, and then they'll put their work credentials in. And I've got a suspicious login attempt, and I have no logs to look at. I have no emails. I have nothing. I have to call the user and find out what they did. Don't be afraid to call people. So however you do it, and hopefully you're starting from a reported phishing email. It's much easier. But you're going to document your malicious sender and the recipients. If you've got a couple hundred recipients, you're not going to waste time writing all of them down. You're going to get their mailboxes cleaned up, right? And you're going to figure out who clicked on the link or downloaded the file or did the bad thing that you need to figure out, okay? You'll also document if the threat is a link or an attachment, or possibly both, right? Because sometimes you get an embedded link in a file and they click on that and it pivots around. So you want to emulate that, please, and not on your work system, please. And figure out what the end goal of the attack was. It could be a malware download, it could be the actual phishing, but figure out what it is. You'll also document, did your recipients reply to or forward the email? That's a training issue. But what it also usually means is that they know the sender. They have a business relationship with them. And you're gonna wanna go in there and you're gonna block them. Because if you don't, you're going to regret it. Ask me how I know. And they'll swear up and down, oh no, my account's cleaned up, it's fine. No, it wasn't. It was not. So make sure they turn on MFA or something and they actually have somebody out, because they'll send multiple waves of phishing emails and you're just gonna have a worse day. So once you've emulated those links or files, you'll document any additional domains or files involved in the phishing attempt. Because oftentimes the initial link or file isn't the worst one, it's something later down the line. They've got to sneak it in through your email security, so it's not usually obviously bad, it's sneaky bad. So you may need to use the malware checklist to investigate any files that were downloaded. You'll figure out who clicked the link or saved or ran the attachment. How far did they get? They're the ones that are most at risk, and you'll need to take action on them. Contrary to popular belief, I do not enjoy resetting users' passwords. I'm lying, I love it. But I'm not gonna reset their password just because they got a phishing email. Some people in my company get 50 of these a day. I'm not gonna reset their password every time, but if I have a reason to, I'm gonna do it. So check, did they hit the actual phishing site? Do they have suspicious login activity on their account? You may not have alerts for it, but check your VPN logs, check your identity provider logs. Do you see anything weird in there? And even if they swear up and down they didn't submit their credentials, you're gonna reset their password. Yeah, the logs don't lie. Document where those attempts came from and if they succeeded. So at this point, we have a list of users that did the bad thing and may have or did submit credentials. I do like to interview all of them and find out what happened, because sometimes you get some good insight into how people's minds work, training gaps, things like that. And if it looks like someone lost their credentials and it looks like somebody actually logged in with their account, you've got like a whole other big problem on your hands, and that's outside the scope of this. You will have a separate process for handling cleaning those accounts up. Your vendors will have recommended actions for you. And like I said, you're gonna document who did what when. So if you're resetting passwords, deleting inbox rules that were created, power apps, anything like that, you're gonna document who's cleaning that stuff up and when they did it. So is there anything else you can do to follow up, by the way? So we have the obvious, right? But we also have, blocking emails by subject. How about URLs? How about blocking domains? How about blocking top-level domains? Who blocks .ru? I do. You better be blocking .ru. Do you block .xyz? I hope you do, because I see just as much bad stuff coming out of there as anywhere else. So you won't notice that, though, unless you start documenting these things. Hosting platforms, inbound sender domains, IPs, all HTML attachments. I blocked all HTML attachments. Ask me how I did it. It was not fun. I got tired of working incidents, so I did it anyway. But if you're doing that stuff, you're gonna document who did it and when. And this will be helpful because 3 years down the line, someone's gonna be like, I can't send email to people in your company. And you're gonna be like, oh wow, yeah, we blocked you because your account got hacked 3 years ago and we didn't unblock it because we didn't realize that you were okay. Are you okay? Is your account okay? 3 years, I'm not joking. Did not realize that his emails were not coming in. But always enable MFA for your users. If you're not doing it, you've already lost. There's a million other people here who will tell you to do it, how to do it. Please do it. So what's left? We're gonna close the loop. We're going to perform a root cause analysis, and we're gonna generate an after action report. There's other talks here that are gonna do a better job explaining this than I can, but this is just the basics. You're gonna tell management a story about what happened and why and what we can do to stop it from happening again. I don't like working the same alerts. I don't like repeating the same incidents. So find out, where does your tools and your processes fail you? Give management short and long-term options for solutions. Make sure it's written at a level that's appropriate for them, right? Explain the acronyms, don't drown them in text speak. See if you can socially engineer them into getting what you need. And give credit where credit is due. If someone caught an early indicator and kept an incident from getting worse, or one of your tools came in handy, make sure management knows about that. Don't point fingers, right? We're not gonna say, oh, well, this guy screwed up, and nope. It was a problem with your processes or your technology. It's not a people problem. But give management your wins along with your losses. Last minute checks. Periodically check your other consoles. If it's a real incident, you will probably be seeing more alerts coming in. And if you are head down in something, you may not realize it right away. So make sure somebody's checking for new alerts. Your tools will fail you, and you will have to call people and talk to them. Get used to it. I don't like the phone either, right? I hate calling people, I really do. But don't waste time looking for logs that don't exist when you can pick up the phone and ask. Phone a friend, there's no penalties, okay? Be ready to divide and conquer. Using the checklist is really helpful because in an incident you can say, this guy's got this person's got this person's got this, and then you can share that with management. And management can get updates from the spreadsheet instead of asking you. Automate your information collection. The less time you spend collecting information, the more time you can spend investigating. Tune your systems. Tune them. Do it. Do it. Don't waste time closing bad alerts. You will miss something important. I'm telling you. If there's one thing you take away from this, tune your systems. And share your work. Update that shared documentation. Because you may not remember that it's Joe's third time getting phished this year. But if you look it up and you realize that he has, maybe it's time for someone to talk to Joe. Maybe you've got like an 8-hour remedial security training course you can put him through. I don't know. So what can you do? Where can you start? In my office, we have the daily log. This is the third place that I've worked where we started a daily log, and it saves us so much time. We have all of our documentation in there, all of our SOPs, all of our common alerts, everything that we close. We put it's like 3 sentences, like here's the alert, here's what happened, here's what we did. Now, a longer incident might have more documentation, but it is super easy for people to go in there and search it. We use OneNote. That may not be appropriate for your team, but find some way to share that information with people. And start somewhere with tuning, really. Like even if it's just 1 alert a day, 30 minutes a week, you will save yourself time if you're not working bad alerts. What's next? You can customize your own checklist. Add your own information sources. Start walking through it. Even weekly is a training exercise. We do weekly IR training on my team, and I walk through with the analysts. So I say like, hey, pick 2 alerts, go through the whole checklist for these. And then we walk through the whole thing together as a team. It's really helpful because sometimes we find that one of our log sources is not working and we didn't realize it. So going through these processes can help you find problems with your log collection. And you'll put together a template for after action reporting. We've cleaned it up. What do we need to do to keep it from happening again? Make sure you're taking note of those pain points. And eventually you'll have some good data and you can put together a gap analysis report. If you have a lot of incidents, you'll be collecting a lot of data really fast. Tell management what you need. And this can be small things. It can be adjustments to your policies on your existing security tools. It can be adjustments to different like training aspects, like, you know, okay, maybe we do actually need to do some phishing training with people. Some places don't do that, so you can always recommend it. It can be big things. It can be big things like a SIM. That's a big expense. Better endpoint protection, rolling out MFA. But if you have the incidents to back that up, now you have proof and you can say, this is why we need it. Yes, I know this is an expense, but working incidents and doing cleanup is an expense also. So get that hard data together, make sure management knows about it. So that's it. It is a lot of information in a very small space of time. So if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Questions, comments? I'm available afterwards if anybody wants to talk and like share horror stories or wants to know how I blocked all HTML attachments. Yes. Can you use the microphone, please? Thank you.
I'm just curious because you mentioned tuning a lot. So in your experience, have you seen more success with having like a dedicated team for like tuning versus it being done by like the ground level SOC analysts?
So tuning is kind of like one of these things that falls off. So you spend a lot of time when you stand up a new system getting it into like a working operational order, and then it quiets down and you're really dealing with new false positives, new bad signatures, new changes to your environment. I like to encourage our SOC analysts to recommend tuning. I'm usually the one doing it though, because sometimes they don't make the best recommendations. And we talk about that, right? Because they're like, let's just turn the signature off. No, we're not gonna turn the signature off, we're gonna do this smart. Like, how can we do this in a way that doesn't cause us to incur risk? So we kind of peer review our tuning, and we actually have like a bi-weekly hour-long tuning session where we go through everything in our different consoles and talk about those opportunities. Yes?
Hi. So my SOC analysts gripe about not having a CMDB and having real clarity to all the assets. I'm just curious if you have figured out a way to solve that or work around it.
The nice thing about gathering information on your assets is there's so many places to do it. If somebody has a really good option for this, I'd love to hear it too, because we have like 3 or 4 different options that we search, and they're owned by different teams and updated occasionally. This can be tough because like we have endpoint protection, right? It's not on our switches. If we have something funky going on one of those, we're literally talking to our network team saying, hey, is this a switch? What is this box? Because sometimes it's not well documented, they don't have the documentation. We're trying to fix it. We are trying to actually have like a source of truth for all of this, but the problem is that nobody wants to maintain it. So this is tough. I wish I had a good answer for you, but having that documentation, so if you run it down one time and you're like, this is this system, it's not part of the domain, it's doing this, and somebody else hits that IP later on, they can look it up and then you have it in your documentation. Anything else? All right. Thank you guys for coming. Have a good rest of the day.